Okay. Welcome back to Ethereal and Elusive. I am. And today, like normal, we reading. I'm reading. So today I wanted to talk about what I read in the month of June. I thought June was going to be another weird reading month the way that May was, but June actually turned out to be a pretty decent reading month. I have read some really good books. I felt like I've gotten out of the reading slump that I was in May, and I don't know. Overall, I'm feeling good about it. So let's just jump right into the books that I read. So the reason why I thought that June would be weird is because of the way that it started. So the first book that I picked up in the month of June was Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. And this was one of those, like, this series is a trilogy. It's the first book of a trilogy. And it was another, like, highly anticipated, highly rated. The girlies was going crazy about the series in general. And she just released the last book of the series, like, last month, I believe. But don't quote me. I don't remember the exact date. But I know that she literally just released the last book of the series. And so, yeah, it was last month. It was May. So I started the series because I was like, I don't know, I'm trying to hop on the train. I'm trying to support a Black woman author. I'm trying to see what it's all about. And as usual, I regretted it. I regretted it. Just to be frank, you see me do a lot of book hauls where I'm like thrifting the books and I'm like finding them serendipitously, and I end up having a really good time in those books, or I randomly find them at Dollar Tree, a free library, Goodwill, whatever, and it's like the book kind of just comes across my path and I make an agreement to read it, right? Sorry to sound super hippy dippy with that, but I think that is the best approach for me, being like an intuitive person, therefore an intuitive reader. I know a lot of readers are, but a lot of readers aren't, actually. A lot of readers like look at like what's everybody else is talking about, what's popular, what they're seeing the most. And don't get me wrong, I definitely like have a wish list full of books that are super popular. I've seen them on booktubers videos more than once, and I'm like, I really want to check that out. The cover looks dope. Everyone's saying it's good. I want to check it out. But I gotta be honest, thus far on my booktube journey and my reader journey, I have not really enjoyed those books. And those are the books that I've paid full price for. This book in particular, I didn't even pay... I didn't order it online. I went to an independent bookstore, so I literally paid full price. Like the maximum amount you could pay for the book, I paid for the book, which still wasn't bad. This book is $15.99, but y'all know me. I don't pay full price for books. I'm used to getting books for like $1. Like, you know what I mean? But I paid full price for this. The same way I paid full price for The Lamb. And I had to pause it. I had to DNF it. The same way I paid full price for Just for the Cameras, and I had to DNF it. And now we add Before I Let Go. I DNF this book. Where do I start? Okay, so I don't want to spend too long talking about one book and then fly through the rest of the books. So I'm gonna try to make like succinct points. For one, for those of you who don't know, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. And this book is set in Atlanta. Now, for me, like a lot of people with their hometowns, like the places that they were born and raised, they hold a lot of trauma there. Had their adolescent traumatic, like our childhood trauma in those spaces. And so a lot of us leave those spaces and never look back, right? But in a part of the healing journey, I'm trying to heal that and create a new narrative around that area. But I can't lie, like having the book set in Atlanta, Georgia was definitely something where I was a little irritated, because not irritated by the book, it is what it is, but I was triggered. That's the word I'm looking for. I was triggered. Some of the like cultural and social dynamics that I'm like, yes, this is actually really common to find in Atlanta, but now that I've lived in other places, I know is a really unhealthy dynamic that I do not wish to have in my life. Those are in this book, but it was like really normalized, and that's fine, to each his own, but it wasn't for me. Like, I'll give you one example point. So the main characters is a divorced couple. And so the woman, one of her best friends made it a point to several times point out how fine her ex-husband is and how much she would be smashing him if she was in her position. And it's just like, that's really weird behavior. That's a really big red flag. That's a really big red flag in a friend. And I'm just so confused as to why that was never pointed out. It was just normal for her to talk about this girl's ex-husband like that and just call him so fine so many times. And that was just one of a handful of problematic things that I know isn't a big deal for a lot of other people reading the book, but was really triggering for me because it felt like my experience growing up, whereas I'm looking at how people are treating each other in the social friendship dynamics, and I'm like, y'all don't see that this is toxic. Y'all don't see that this isn't right. This isn't normal. This is not how you're supposed to interact with the people around you in your community. And everybody's like, relax, you're being dramatic. Like, so long story short, this book gaslit me. No no, it didn't, but it did trigger that. But even outside of that, I'm recognizing that romance is not the genre for me, unless it's fantasy romance. Yeah, but outside of that, it's like, I don't know. And then like people talk about how like they liked how this book discusses like grief and complex topics, and like another one of the main characters having a warped perception of what therapy is and them growing through that and seeing that therapy can be useful. Like so many things that they felt like was worked through in this book. And I agree, those things were mentioned, but to me it was still like, it was nothing that for me personally, don't fight me, nothing registered as profound. And I do like a light read, I guess, but I do like books that pick my brain, that make me think, that discuss topics in a way that I can simmer with. And this was nothing profound in my opinion. But now look, let me be very clear. When I say that I consistently am rooting for everybody black, I'm consistently rooting for everybody black. So I took my qualms out of it and I said, for what it is, for the romance that discusses grief, that discusses divorce, that discusses like perhaps second chances and the complexities that come with why people split up after being together for so long, and how their lives are so intertwined that it's almost impossible to fully like untangle your life from somebody that you have kids with. For that, I gave this, let me check. I gave this 4 stars. Because I recognize that a lot of the reasons why I didn't like this book were my own bias. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. Romance is not my thing, in general, but I have read it where it was written well for me. But this wasn't it. But at the same time, for what it was, it deserves its credit. Yeah, it deserves its credit. And I would be honest, like, even if it's an author of color, I would be honest if I didn't like it. But I do feel like Kennedy Ryan deserves her credit for what it was. Solid 4. I DNF'd it when I was about 50 to 75% of the way in, because I already knew how it was gonna end. How all romances end. All romances end the same way. I said I wasn't gonna talk about this book a long time, so I'm gonna move on. But yeah. So the second book that I read, so after reading that in June, I'm like, I don't know, we already starting with another DNF. I don't know. But then I went to the book sale that I told y'all about in a previous video, where I was able to find so many horror books. And so I decided to read this little ditty, which is The Woods All Black by Lee Mandello. It's like a novella. I don't know the definition of a novella, I'm gonna be honest. I just always assume that it's a short novel, given the context clues. So I'm gonna say this is a horror novella. I could be wrong. Y'all don't correct me. I don't really care. It's a short horror book. It was like, how many pages? 150, about 150 pages. Oh no, that's the acknowledgments. So it's less than 150 pages. I got it for what? I got this for $5. It's normally $19.99. It's a horror book. It's queer. It's all of the things. So the thing with this book, it really did help me get back into the flow of reading. After like so many books where I'm like trying the popular picks and what's popular and then DNFing all of them. Reading a short book was really helpful, because I was like, no matter how good or bad it is, I can get through 100 and so pages. Like, that's just it. I read it in 24 hours. Within 24 hours, I finished this book, which is unusual for me, because like I've told y'all in the past, historically speaking, I'm a slow reader. But I read this rather quickly, and it was just so... I did not guess what was coming. As I said in the book where I hauled this, I didn't fully understand what it totally was about, because I like to go into books blind, right? Because I like to be surprised. I hate when I can guess what's going to happen. And part of being neurospicy is just pattern recognition. So it's easy for me to like pick up a pattern and say, this is where they're going with this. The way that they're writing it, the way that they're talking, the way the characters are flowing, everything that's happening is pointing towards this being the thing. Even if it's like a plot twist, it could be a plot twist, but I'm so good at recognizing patterns that I really enjoy when stories take me someplace that I have no idea where it's going or how it got here. Like, and that's how I feel about this. Also, it's Pride Month. So reading a queer horror in June was just giving all of the things. And yeah, so this book was really interesting in that it kind of reads like a Western at first. It's kind of really slow. I'm not gonna lie. In my personal opinion, it was really slow, but I kind of expected it, because the setting was literally like in the middle of nowhere out in the Midwest. And so I just expected it to go slow, but I was like, 100 pages. As long as it gets to where it's going within 100 pages, I can normally like stick it out. And it went. And the thing, I don't want to really say what caught me off guard, because if you read this, I kind of want you to just experience it. But I will say this. I will say that when I went to go mark it on my Fable app that I was reading it, the book description, because it gives like a word for each book of like what category to put it in, and it had spicy. And I'm reading it, I'm like, there is nothing about this book that has spice in it. I don't even see how they would even set up a spicy scene. Like, there might be like potential for romance, but not spice. But I was wrong. I was really, really wrong. I was really, really wrong. And I'm gonna just put it like this. This is the type of book. It's queer horror, yes. It goes over really important topics and issues. It definitely feels like it was written for people with a very specific kink. And I don't have that kink, but it was very intriguing to read. Because I don't kink shame. I do kink inquire. I do kink ask questions, but I don't kink shame. And yeah, so it didn't do anything for me, but it was really intriguing what happened. I don't know how else to say it. And the last thing I'll say is I really enjoyed the fact that the main character is a trans man, and he was never like misgendered by the author. Emphasis on by the author. He's misgendered by other people within the story, but by the author, there is no misgendering, even when it comes to any potential spice scenes. So that was that. Let's see, what did I give that? I gave that book a 3. But honestly, I think I would change that rating right now to a 4. Because it is a really good book. I don't know why I gave it a 3. I think I gave it a 3 because it was really slow for 85% of the book. To me, it was rather slow. But once things started going, they started going. And it's like I had no idea where to go. I do feel like all of this could have been avoided. However, that's how I feel about most horror stuff. And I think that's why I like to consume horror. As a side note, I like to consume horror because there are circumstances that are so unrelatable. I would never be in those circumstances. It's not relatable. So I am here to watch it without being triggered. You know, it doesn't cause real fear in me because I'm like, I would never investigate that. I would never stick around for that. I would just bounce. Like, I don't know. That's how I feel about all horror. And I do feel like everything that happens in this book was 100% avoidable. But just how it goes and where it goes, it definitely deserves its credit. So definitely changing that to a 4. Now, after that, I finished, because alongside both of those books, I also was reading a nonfiction book. Well, is this nonfiction? I put all like spiritual, allegorical books in my nonfiction category. So I would count this as nonfiction. And that is Hind's Feet on High Places by Hannah Hurnard. And this was a reread, as I said in the video before, because I had read it before and I wanted to go back to it and I wanted to see how it was. And because my spiritual beliefs have shifted for very specific reasons, the book was a little challenging for me to get through. It's not that, because this is a allegorical tale about growth, honestly, from the Christian perspective, and it's not about, it was little, so the parts that were challenging for me were the little snippets where it just kept like emphasizing, like it kept romanticizing struggle and trauma in a way that was triggering for me back with my experience of my spiritual journey, where I feel like that stuff got romanticized in order to control and oppress. I don't believe, though, that that is the vibe in here. I do feel like this book still really has a lot of good points and is a really profound book. I recommend it for anybody whose beliefs align with it. But also, like, even if you're not Christian, it's a really good book. It's just a really good book about personal growth. But for me, I couldn't really finish it. I got like 90% of the way, and I was just like, I know the message. I know the lesson. And I thought that I would get more out of it rereading it a second time 10 years later. But I actually got less out of it than I did the first time. And I think that's just because, like I said, my faith has shifted, so different things resonate more, and the certain things that resonated before, like over sensationalized trauma, doesn't resonate anymore. And there's a difference between like recognizing, like, in your journey for personal growth, you are going to go through hard things and you have to keep your faith and you have to keep believing. There's a difference between that and like certain things that I read. So upon rereading that, I gave it a 3.5 because I think my thing with rating books is that I'm also an author and I'm also a writer. So I rate from a perspective of like, does this author deserve their credit? Like, I give credit where credit is due. And so I can recognize, like, this isn't a story that grabbed me. However, their writing style was there. The plot was there. Like, they had all of the elements that they needed as a writer to produce something good. So it could probably resonate for other people. I'm just saying why it doesn't resonate with me. And so I gave it a 3.5 because I do feel like you can definitely tell it is divinely inspired. And it's well written. It's just, it does have some slow parts. It is very slow, but it was written a long time ago where we had longer attention spans. So I gave it a 3.5. Next, I read Lore of the Wilds, which is a fantasy. Is it technically romantasy? I don't know. Is it YA? I don't know. But it has all of those elements. Romance, fantasy, kind of YA. Kind of. Not really. Because I don't think YA has like explicit sex scenes, and it wasn't like explicit. It wasn't smut necessarily, but there definitely was like a descriptive sex scene. But my experience with this book was I was eating it up. Okay, also perspective, I told you about my journey with audiobooks, and so after listening to a romance audiobook and just having all of the cringes all of the cringe moments, I decided, like, let me go for a genre that I know I like. And that's the thing with this month. Instead of, the reason why you don't see anything but like one book off of my TBR as the books that I read, because I realize it's like, I'm an intuitive reader, so I need to go with one, like, genres that I know that I actually enjoy. And two, is just like what I'm intuitively feeling to read next. And that's how I picked this book. I was like, I want to get back into fantasy. I want to do what I like. I want to listen to it. I want to see how it goes. Is audiobooks going to be a thing for me? And honestly, listening to this on audiobook made me fall in love with audiobooks. I am on the train. I am an audiobook girly. I am an audiobook shawty because I had such a pleasant experience listening to Lore of the Wilds. I was in it. And I feel like it gave more room for my imagination to really like picture what is happening. With the romance book, I didn't really picture anything because I was just so not interested. Just to be real, I was just so not interested. Nothing was intriguing. Nothing made me think deeply. Everything was just unrealistic. But with this, I'm talking about unrealistic and I'm talking about fantasy book. But seriously, like I love fantasy, even though it's also unrealistic, some may argue. But like, I love fantasy because it allows your imagination to roam, it taps into your inner child, but it also tends to cover like complex and nuanced topics in a way that makes the characters more relatable. Like, even if this character is like an ogre, an elf, or like some other creature, they're not human, but they're complex emotions, and the authenticity in which it is expressed is what is so relatable, what is so good about it. And Lord of the Wilds definitely falls into all of that. I really enjoyed it. I was just gobbling that book up. Like, I was listening to it all the time while I did dishes, while I cooked, while I showered, like everything. Any chance I could get to listen to it, I would listen to it. And the only thing that I would say is I did not like the ending. I did not like the plot twist at the end. I felt like the book was so well written and we were trucking along. Okay, wait. There was something else I didn't like that led to the plot twist at the end. So I'm not going to say what it is. It would kind of be a spoiler. But there is some interest that the main character develops that makes her feel like a pick-me. To me, I don't know. Not a pick me in a sense of like, I want you to pick me, but pick me in the sense of like, I like everybody. I'm for everybody. And I just didn't like that. And it didn't make sense. But once we get to the end, which honestly also kind of made me recognize a pattern that might occur at the end. And it didn't occur in the way that I was anticipating, but it also didn't occur in a way to me that made sense to the rest of the story. Like, in the context of everything, the plot twist is really unrealistic. It's really like, yes, I could see that. I could see where you're going with that. I could see where you got it from. I could see where you wanted to catch us off guard. But I don't like this. I don't like it at all. And it's not just it's just in a way that I just don't like it. From a writer standpoint, though. Like, not even from like I just don't like the way it ended. I wish it would have ended differently. No, like, as a writer, you should have written the end differently. Because what? And it's just like, thinking back to all the stuff that took place, it's like, that's dumb. That's dumb. I don't like it. So what I thought was going to be a 5-star read turned into a 4.5. Because I could not take away from the fact that prior to that, the book was giving and I was eating it up. I could not take away from that fact. But I couldn't give it 5 stars because I didn't like the ending at all. It was still really well written. I like the characters. I like the plot. I like all of everything that came up, and I like that. Yeah, I feel like it is the first of a series. Like, this is going to be a series. And I can definitely see that. Like, for once in a series, I'm like, I could see myself reading the second book because I do have a lot of unanswered questions, but not in a way that it was neglected in the first book, in a way that it's just like, there are so many layers to it that, like, we just didn't have time to cover everything. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was a 4.5. So then on my audiobook kick, I discovered that there were some free books because I've been using like credits that my fiance had built up on his account. But I discovered like you can also just listen to free books that's included with the subscription without using a credit. And so I came across Carmilla, a rendition of Carmilla. I don't know who wrote the original Carmilla, but the one that I read is by J. Sheridan Le Fanu. and it was written before Dracula. Of course, the woman vampire came first. We often do a lot of things first. But I don't know if he was the first to write this. I don't know. Y'all can let me know in the comments who wrote the first Carmilla. There's been so many retellings. It's a classic. I've never digested any of the retellings to my knowledge. And so I was just really curious. And I like vampires. Reading The Immortal Dark showed me that I like to read about vampires. So I was just curious. And it was 2 hours and 45 minutes. So it's like a really short, really quick audiobook. Let me give it a try. And it was interesting. I think I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm always gonna be real. I'm always just gonna tell my truth. I feel like the only thing that made this story interesting was the acting. Like, this was an audiobook. It wasn't just read. It was literally acted. Every single character in the book was played by a voice actor. So the voices were changing, and it was like literally acting, not narrating. They had music, they had background effects, they had all of the things. And that is the only thing that made it intriguing, because it literally just felt like I was listening to a show. But outside of that, I wasn't overly enthusiastic about it. I did like that Carmilla is she's really this elusive character that you can't quite put your finger on. And I find that really interesting, because with a lot of vampire shows that I've watched, that were made in the 2000s or whatever, you see it from like a God perspective, where you're able to see like the vampire's life, the people that they're affecting. Like, you're seeing the whole picture. But in Carmilla, in this story, you really only saw from the human's perspective, and they were all just confused. And this was before any vampire rhetoric was even a thing. So they're trying to describe this thing that before, like, nobody's talked about this before. It's not on TV. It's not folklore. It's not anything. It's just something that they don't understand. And the way that Carmilla was moving and all of that was like really interesting. I really enjoyed that part of it, that element, but not enough to really fully enjoy the entire story as a whole. But it was cool. I see why it is a birthplace for vampiric stories. I see why it is an icon. I see why it sets the precedence, and I really do like certain elements, or that is the only element that I liked, actually. So I gave it 3 stars. I'm not really a harsh rater. I'm really not. I feel like when you're a writer too, you're not that harsh. They say those who can do and those who can't critique. And as an artist, I stand by that, because like, people who don't do a certain thing are so critical. But it's like, okay, then you do it. Then you do it. Like, so that's why it's like, I give my opinion, I give my thoughts, but like, a rating is, I'm not that harsh of a rater. So even though it wasn't that enjoyable, it was short, it was digestible, it gave me perspective of like the birthplace of vampiric stories, and I like the elusive nature, and it was well written for its time, for what it was. So I gave it a 3. Nothing that I in a year, in a month, I might not remember the book at all. I might not remember the story at all, but it was enjoyable for the moment. And then I was about to say finally, but I actually have 2 more books. And then we have The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. She was a winner. I got this book from the Goodwill with the Bins, and I have a video about that already. And I don't know why, but this book was always the most intriguing in the pile. And so I was like, if I'm gonna go back to mood reading, if I'm gonna go back to the things that interest me, I'm gonna pick this up, because intuitively I feel like I'm gonna really enjoy this at this moment. And I did. And it gave me what I wished Before I Let Go gave me. This gave me it. Now, I was hesitant to give it its credit at first, because it does seem like it's written in a very simplistic writing style, but it still told a really good story. It told a really, really good story. And the reason why I was like, why am I fighting this? I'm gonna give this book credit, was once I got to the end and I realized I was literally on the edge of my seat the entire book. Not in a way where I'm wondering what happens next, because honestly, like, some of the things in the book were guessable. It's one of those books where everything kind of works out. Spoiler alert. It's one of those books where everything kind of works out, but like the process to get there is stressful. And so that was the part that I was really enjoying. It's like I kind of see like, okay, this might work out in their favor, but I don't know how. It's not making sense. How they gonna get out of this? And that just had me curious. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed this from beginning to end. And usually once I get to the end of the book, I'm skim reading, because I'm like, it's already ended. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Like, okay. But with this book, all the way up until the last page, I was just like here for it. I was enjoying it. I was eating it down. And I finished this pretty quickly, and it's a decent sized book. It's not that long. It's like 320, 330-ish pages. So it takes a chunk of time. And I remember this time last year, it took me about a month to read a book this long. And now I read it within like 4 days. And so I'm really excited. I'm really proud of my progress. And I'm also, but it's not just about me. It also speaks to how good the book just is. So there was that. And that was a 5-star read for me. Wow, that was my only 5-star read. This gave what I thought Lure of the Wilds was gonna be. Lure of the Wilds was way more like stressful. It was way more intense, but I just did not like the way it ended at all. So no, I just can't. I'm sorry, but this gave what it needed to give. So that was my only 5-star read this month. And then I started A Touch of Darkness on audiobook. Now, the reason why I started this is because it's one of those books that's free with a subscription until July 8th. So even though I didn't really want to read it next, like my intuition wasn't pulling me to that book just yet, I kind of forced it and was like, well, let me just go ahead and read it while it's free and it doesn't take a credit. And I just think I wasn't ready for it. I just think it wasn't the time, because it was interesting enough. I mean, I wasn't that impressed with the writing style or the story, or it's a retelling of Persephone and Hades, which I thought this whole time, I thought that that goddess's name was pronounced Persephone. And I know y'all probably like, ew, but to me, because I thought that's what it was this whole time, I actually like that more than what I found out the name is actually pronounced as. And that's another reason why it's kind of good to read audiobooks. Although I have heard narrators mispronounce things, like 1 or 2 words, before. But for the most part, like, they're giving like the correct pronunciation. All the words that we skip when we're reading those fantasy books, they're like actually having to say them. In our mind, it's just like, then you just keep reading. But they actually pronounce it. So that was really cool, figuring out that I was wrong all along. But outside of that, it just felt like a really childish retelling of Persephone and Hades. And I mean, granted, like, Persephone is like in college in this book, so I guess she is technically a child. Legally speaking, she's an adult though. And I just felt like the voice that the voice actor had whenever she was like talking in Persephone's voice just felt so childish to me, like so childish. And so I guess I didn't really like the voice actor for this, the narrator for this. But other than that, I don't know, like the book cover to A Touch of Darkness is just so beautiful. It's so intricate, it's so elegant, it's so sexy. But to me, the book was not that. And I guess I expected it to be similar read to The Shadows Between Us, and it wasn't. It wasn't. Like, The Shadows Between Us at least gave me a good story. It gave me something to like, okay, this is how we feel about this. Okay, I'm invested. I don't know. I guess it's supposed to be romantic-y, but it reads like YA. I don't know how to put it into words. So I DNF'd it pretty quickly. I think I got to chapter 4. And was like, I'm just gonna come back and I'm going to listen to this if I feel called to, because I don't think that it's gonna be a horrible read. I think I just have to be in that type of mood. My intuition has to be like, now, you know. I don't know. And the last thing I'll talk about, because I'm probably gonna finish it before this month is up, but not before y'all see this, and before y'all see this video, actually, because this video will drop in July. But I am currently reading The God of the Woods. And this is a book that's highly rated, highly talked about by the horror girlies. And I was really excited because y'all know I love the woods. I love horror. So I was really excited to get into it. And also, I really love campy horror, and I did not realize that this was a campy horror type of book, but I'm really enjoying it. Campy horror is just so cozy to me. I know it's like a horror genre, but it really feels really cozy to me. And I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The only thing is, I go into books blind, so I assumed that it would be some sort of supernatural element, and it still might be. Like I said, I'm still kind of like in the early stages, maybe midway. I don't think I'm midway yet. Maybe 1/3. And it still might be, because there is something that's happening in the plot that's not quite adding up. So I feel like that is where the supernatural element might come into play, or I might be completely wrong. Like I said, I came into this book blind because that is my choice. I love it here. Don't save me. But I'm really enjoying it. I am enjoying this book as much as I thought I would enjoy it. But it's something that my intuition led me to that just so happened to also be a popular book. So we'll see. So that's on my list, but I don't have a rating because I'm still reading it currently. And yeah, those are all the books that I read in June. So what is that? 7 books, I believe. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that would be 8 books. We doing it. I'm a reader. We doing it. I'm excited about that. So my best reading month, or my highest, the month where I've read the most book thus far, I don't know if it's my best. I still think April was my best reading month because I believe I enjoyed the books that I read in that month more, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I'm excited for this journey. Thank y'all for tuning in, and until next time, be blessed.